today who do not like the term dispensations. Many preachers won't mention the word. I mention it because the Bible uses the term. Dispensations are the different ages or time periods showing the progressive order of God's dealing with the human family. This is an example. Back in the Old Testament, Aaron was the high priest, and there was a literal tabernacle down here. Today, we have a high priest, but he is not ministering in any building down here. He is up yonder at God's right hand, and he is there right now. Why there are not many references while there are not many references to Melchizedek in the Old Testament, there are quite a few references to him in the epistle to the Hebrews. In Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 5, chapter 5 and verse 10, we read, called of God and high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Then again in Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 20, whether the forerunner is for us entered, even Jesus made an high priest after the order of Melchizedek. Now, here in verse 1, the writer says, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. This is going to talk a great deal about Melchizedek in this chapter. The very key to this chapter is found in verse 17. For he testifieth, thou art a priest after the order of Melchizedek. Since we are going to look at Christ as a priest after the order of Melchizedek, we need to know all we can about Melchizedek. And we need to go back to the account in Genesis chapter 14. Remember, we studied that one precepts upon precepts uh, with Debbie. The events of Genesis 14 took place after Abraham's nephew Lot had moved down to Sodom. And we have in this chapter the first account of a war. The kings of the east formed a confederacy and came against the kings of the west, that is, those who lived around the Dead Sea. The kings of the east won and lugged off the people as saved and the wealth of the cities as booty. Word was brought to Abraham that Lot was being carried away into captivity. Abraham immediately armed about 380 men out of his own household, which means he had quite a household. Each man that he could arm must have had at least one woman and a child. Therefore, Abraham must have had about 1,000 people who served under him. He took these 318 men, and by a surprise attack, he was able to get a victory over the kings of the east. All he was concerned about was rescuing Lot, but in so doing, he was able to rescue the kings of Sodom and all the others. In Genesis chapter 14 and verse 17, we are told, and the kings of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter and Cheddar, Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him at the valley of Sheba, which is the king's dale. And the kings of Sodom made Abraham uh, an offer which he refused. Then out of nowhere he read, and Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. Genesis chapter 14 and verse 18. If I remember correctly, when we studied in precepts upon precepts with Debbie, he says here that he rescued the kings of Salem. I thought that they uh, cowardly went up into the mountains and hid themselves, where Lot later uh, and his daughters lived in the cave. So anyway, but That's my recollection. It may not be